Hello, this is TESOL Macedonia Thrace 21st Annual International Convention here in Thessaloniki, Greece. I'm Aspa Georgopoulou, a board member of TESOL, and here we have with us Carol Griffiths, one of our plenary speakers. Welcome, and let me say it's an honor to have you here with us.
It's lovely to be here, thank you.
Your talk is entitled Using Narrative as a Strategy to Teach Language. So could you tell us a few things about the importance of narrative in language learning?
Yes, let me try to explain a few of my thoughts about that. I feel that narrative can be used to because it is motivating. I mean, it is naturally, everybody loves a story, and so it is possible to utilize the natural interest that stories have, and the idea, I guess, is that when students want to absorb the story, take part in the story, that they will naturally also absorb the language. And also maybe if they are having trouble producing the language, but they will find a way to express their ideas if they have sufficient motivation. So motivation is a big part of it. And
it's true.
Yes. So in addition perhaps to motivation, there is the attention, that stories attract attention in a way that maybe just, a textbook does not, because a textbook is, I suppose people think it's work, shall we say, whereas a story is often associated with fun and something that they enjoy, something they can also relate to on a personal level. And those kind of things. It can teach culture, because all stories have some cultural input in one way or another. Maybe the things that are in the story will differ from one place to another.
So how can we use stories effectively to promote language?
Well, there are a multitude of ways, actually. Almost anything, you can use a story to do almost anything, actually. Maybe it takes a little bit of preparation, but I think it rewards the time that you spend. And not only that, but once you've done it, you keep it. And you use it with other groups. It isn't just something that gets wasted. I mean, you can use it to develop all 4 skills, for instance. You can use it for listening, for speaking, getting them to talk to each other, for reading, of course, and comprehension of what they read, and also getting them to write, so that what they have read will stimulate them to write something else. Maybe even publishing what they've written, because they love seeing what they've written. It's very, very...
Yes, they love that.
That's very motivating.
In your talk, you mentioned the issues of authenticity and identity, which may arise from using narrative in the classroom. So could you tell us a little bit more about these issues?
The idea of authenticity? Well, I guess if a story is a real story, shall we say, its authenticity tends to shine through in a way that's hard to actually recreate if you're just writing it. I mean, textbooks have course books have their place, of course, but something that appears in a course book, you always know it's written for a course book. There's something about it often hard to define. But a real story, like the one I used today,
yes.
I mean, a real person wrote it, and the feelings that person had, and as you read it, you empathize with those feelings. And so myself, I think that the authenticity is something, that speaks for itself, in fact. Some people would argue that the moment you take it away from the authentic situation, the original situation, is no longer exactly authentic. And of course, that is an argument. But I think, nevertheless, something which was authentic retains a degree of the authenticity. And the identity was it. How that relates. Well, I mean, the issue of identity has been quite a big issue more recently. Bonnie Norton and those people have written about identity. Identity, everybody does have an identity, and I think we ignore it at our peril. And they like to have their identity recognized and respected. And so I think stories can do that.
Very interesting. What advice would you like to give to today's teacher?
To today's teacher, yes. Well, that is quite a big topic. Yes, today's teacher. Maybe it isn't so different from. I guess today's teacher has to compete, if you like, with things that maybe when we didn't have to compete with when I was a young teacher. Internet, for instance, and these kinds of things are. They have their own motivational value, and it can be sometimes quite hard to compete with that. You have to compete with technology in your classroom. I mean, your students with phones, for instance. I mean, that was never an issue when I started teaching. But, well, I guess the advice is to make sure you are well prepared. Prepare your lessons as, you know, the outline that I gave in my talk. It means, for one thing, that you have the self-confidence that your stuff is ready and prepared for your students. That helps you, and therefore you are able to give your energy to whatever else might need to be done in a classroom. And there are lots of things that need doing in a classroom. It's full of maybe 30 other individuals, and they all have their own reasons for being there. Sometimes, unfortunately, there are reasons for not particularly wanting to be there. So all of that has to be borne in mind, and so you need to make it as interesting as possible, as motivating as possible, and I do think stories can do that.
I agree with you. So thank you very much for sharing.
You are very welcome.
Enjoy the rest of the convention, and
hope so.
hope to see you again.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, thank you for having me.